Chapter 7. Zoe was awakened by the phone ringing. It went on and on. When her father didn't answer, she got up groggily and made her way to her parents' bedroom. The door was open and the bed unmade. She picked up the phone. It was her father, and she was momentarily confused. Then she remembered with a rush of full awakening. He had been called away late last night to the hospital. "Hi, Zoe," he said. "You did get back to school to sleep then?" Yes, she flushed guiltily at having to answer that way. "Mom's not too good, I'm afraid. I'm going to stay here, but don't you come down, okay? There's nothing you can do right now. Listen, I'll call you after school, or this evening, and let you know how she is." He thinks I'm useless, she thought, because I froze when Mom was sick. Will she be all right? Yeah, she'll be fine. Liar, she thought. Are you coming home later? Maybe not. I'll let you know. Dad, if she's feeling better tomorrow. I don't think I can talk about that right now. One thing at a time, okay? There was always an excuse to keep her away. Okay, Zoe muttered. Left out again. She clenched the phone tight. There's a good girl. Take care. Bye, she said, and the phone clicked off. She slammed the receiver down. In the quiet, she heard her clock radio's alarm going off in her room. It was too late to go back to bed now. She had to get ready for school. She went to shut off the awful music. Zoe was looking under the couch for her shoes when the phone rang again. She snatched it up. Had her father changed his mind? But it was Pat Reynolds, the owner of the gallery her mother showed at. We're having an opening tomorrow night, she said. I thought you might like to come. I mean, I know Harry's busy. I thought you might like to get out. I don't know, Pat, Zoe said. I'd feel out of place without Mom. There'll be people you know there. But they'd all be her parents' friends. They would greet her with overly jolly hellos and then not to know what to say next. She hated those awkward silences. She'd be miserable. Can I think about it? Sure, Zoe. Call me. Take care. They both know she wouldn't come. She left early to avoid more phone calls, although maybe that was a mistake. Usually the walk to school meant a welcome chance to think, but today she didn't want to think. It would be all right if Lorraine were there. Lorraine could make her feel better. But Lorraine had driver's ed at 8 o'clock and had left an hour ago. It was the only course she showed up for consistently. The rhythm of Zoe's steps reminded her of another walk. Who was that boy? Simon? Was he a runaway or what? He wasn't from around here because he seemed to have a slight accent of some sort. He was so matter-of-fact about his parents being dead. Was he lying, she wondered? Or was it so long ago it was like an old wound, only aching sometimes? Could you get used to it? If so, maybe he had something to teach her about survival. She couldn't figure him out. One minute he was nervous, and the next he seemed so confident. It was funny, she had thought. She was leading him, but now that she looked back on it, she realized he had never hesitated once, as if he knew the way. Silly, she thought. He couldn't have. Zoe kept her eyes on the moss-bordered flagstones of the sidewalk as she walked, glancing up to avoid the occasional pedestrian, or to cross an intersection. Step on a crack, break your mother's back, she thought, remembering childhood magic. Then, irrationally, she was stepping into the middle of each paving stone, avoiding the grooves between them, trying to coordinate her steps at an even pace to miss the cracks. She had to hop now and then to correct her momentum. She went faster and faster, challenging the ground. Then she came to a street corner and had to stop for traffic. Could I really make a magic spell, she thought. If I see a silver car pass before the light changes, my mother won't die. The light changed immediately, and she bit back a cry of dismay. I'm a child, she thought. A stupid child. No wonder they hardly ever let me see her for long. There were only a few people outside school. It was still a long time until the bell. Zoe sat on a semicircle of stone wall that faced the flagpole to wait, but as she thought over the day's classes, she realized she had left her calculus textbook at home. She had thought everything she needed was in her locker, but now she remembered she had last seen it on top of the refrigerator. Perhaps she had time to go back and get it. No, if she left now, she wouldn't come back to school today. The idea caught her fancy at once. Why should she go anyhow? She couldn't possibly concentrate. How much could she get done? Lorraine does it all the time, she thought, and she doesn't get caught. And what if I did? I've got an excuse. A bitter snort escaped her lips. Yes, who would blame me, she decided. She got up at once and left the school grounds. Where do people go when they skip school? Does the police really pick you up for truancy? She had cut a few classes before, but never the whole day. She walked back the way she had come, but past her home and went to the park. It was too early for the young mothers and their preschoolers, but there were people anyway. Two scruffy teenage boys yanked on the swing change and tossed the seats back and forth. Bandanas sprouted from the calves of their old blue jeans like weird bedraggled plumage. 3 swings were already wrapped all the way around the top pole. Vandalism comes to Oakwood, she thought with disgust. She hoped those rats hadn't been chewing away at the gazebo as well. No use staying here. She didn't feel like answering a round of "Hey, baby" from some jerks in cut-off denim and leather. One of them looked like he'd been in a fight. Great, she thought. Another place I can't go. Just what I want. A bunch of heavy metal maniacs invading my park. But that was unfair. Simon wore leather, and he seemed all right. She remembered him standing in front of her, his nervous fingers unable to stay still, uncomfortable as she had been so many times. Then she had felt an empathy that had drawn her to him. Now she saw what he'd been toying with. She drew her hand from her pocket and looked down. It was a star, like the one that lay in her palm, the one she had found on her back steps. Anger and fear shook her. Nothing was sacred. Nothing at all. She couldn't even go home. She felt violated. She had almost made him a friend. I want Mom, she thought. The bus showed up, as if on command, as soon as she reached the bus stop. She couldn't turn back now. The rush hour crowd had already thinned out, and there were plenty of seats. At the hospital, she swept by the reception desk without checking in. It's my right, she told herself. She's my mother. I belong here. She tried to look like she had business to attend to. The elevator took forever to arrive, and when she got in, the car moved so slowly. She thought she'd scream. I suppose I don't want to give anyone a heart attack, she thought, as she scuffed nervously at the brass plaque on the floor that said Otis. When the elevator finally stopped, her heart gave a lurch. What if Mom was sick like last time? But she got off anyway. She turned the corner by the nurse's station and kept on walking. Out of the corner of her eye, Zoe saw the nurse there leap to her feet, but she wasn't going to stop for an interrogation now. She wasn't going to be put off. She had to talk to her mother. She knew the nurse was catching up by the rustle of petticoat against Chris' uniform, so she ran the last 2 yards and flung the door open. Her father looked up, startled, still clutching his wife's hand to his chest. The nurse arrived behind her. What's going on? It's my daughter, Harry Sutcliffe answered, almost as if he were reminding himself. Our daughter, Zoe thought. She's not dead yet. I'm sorry, the nurse said, but she looks so strange. It's okay? He nodded, so she left, leaving the door ajar. Zoe, what's wrong? Her father asked. He seemed to be grasping futility for reasons for her to be there. Had the house exploded? Had there been an earthquake? He was distracted by a raspy voice from the bed. Why aren't you in school? There was a quirky smile on her mother's face, half amusement, half something more bitter. Her words gave him something to hold on to. Why aren't you in school? He repeated at Zoe, unaware of the inane echo. It's okay, Harry, really, her mother said in that whispery rasp. What's a day here and there? Tubes rattled softly as she tried to gesture gay abandon. Zoe saw her father struggling not to argue. He had always been strict about stuff like that. But how many days? He stared at Zoe accusingly. I haven't got room to worry about where you are every day. You know that, Zoe. First time, Dad. Honest. Well, you startled us. It was, he said begrudgingly. She didn't lie. He knew that. You should think of your mother. Harry, his wife gently chided. I do think of you, Mom, Zoe said, all the time. I miss you. But the more I miss you, the less I'm allowed to see you. She circled the bed to the opposite side from her father and took her mother's other hand. She had never seen a human being that color before, ashen blue. There seemed to be more tubes than ever, and her mother was lost amid the tangles. Oh God, how can I tell her about that boy, she thought. Her mother's eyes had not left her since she entered the room, but now they lowered ashamed. Sorry, Zoe, she whispered.